Hey, what's up, guys? It's Rico here, CEO of Source Financia, host of the Main Channel podcast, and the host of the Source Financia YouTube channel, back with another one. There's another video cast on COVID-19 supply chain. So some updates on what we've been up to. I think the last video I made was pretty much last week. I kind of was talking a lot about the craziness of the shipping situation. I didn't really dive deeply into the actual productions that we've done and where we've shipped to, and some of the plans that we've made. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. In the previous video that I released, I was talking a lot about the shipping situation. In terms of the products specifically that we've sourced, I mean, we looked at every single product that most people are interested in. So anything from, the N95 masks all the way down to, ventilators. But then over time, over the first week or two, we realized that there, like, for example, the ventilators, it's just a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of regulations. It's actually more strict than most of the other products. The N95s, there's such limited supply that, even if you can find a factory that has N95s, they're only going to be able to give you 20,000 units a week or whatever. And then typically, if you're not ready to place an order immediately, 2 days later, their production is full. A lot of fake N95s out there. So we stopped focusing on that. CPE gowns, the medical gowns, sort of the blue PE foam gowns, that went from 30 cents to $4 overnight, which we spoke about. So we stopped focusing on those, even though we actually just started our first CPE medical gown order. And so anyways, we kind of narrowed it down to consistently KN95s, 3-plies, face shields, gloves, even though the gloves are also kind of a crazy situation.
I don't see how that can continue moving forward. So volatile, prices can change from one in the morning to the afternoon. And then with the shipping rates being what they are, it's like shipping is costing significantly more than the actual product. If you're shipping by air, of course, the only real move at this point is to load up a container and ship an entire container, or load up a plane and send off an entire plane.
Yeah.
To be honest.
To be effective in pricing. So yeah, those are the sort of the main products that we focused on, and we've worked with now buyers in Ireland, or Europe as a whole. So Ireland, Denmark, the US. I think that's pretty much it, right? Like, we've had a lot of inquiries from South America. We've had inquiries from Australia.
We're doing the France order.
Oh yeah, France. That was the one country I was missing. So yeah, basically Europe and the States.
We've had inquiries from everywhere: Brazil, Chile, Mexico.
Yeah, Australia, even other parts of Asia. But yeah, the ones that have materialized over the last 5 weeks have been the States and Europe. Like, we focused so much on FDA, the requirements of the US. It's been interesting seeing the requirements in Europe, because it's like Europe is, EU has their own generalized standards, but then every single country has its own specific standards, which is extremely difficult to find factories for, because there was 5 testing facilities in China that basically the EU said, or CE said, those are not regarded as CE certificates anymore.
And that was just since end of March.
Yeah.
Anything March 20 beyond these few companies, nothing is going to be valid.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's 80% of the factories out there. And some of the factories we're talking about are some of the most reputable factories in this industry. Like, these are factories that are, we're working with closely, and are listed on the EUA list, the CDC EUA list. And we've been to their facilities, and they're 100% legitimate, but can't export to Europe anymore. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Things good down to the T, but you don't have this one document.
Yeah.
And there's one specific thing you call something for nothing. It's not going to work.
So I was saying this. I was like, I feel like the EU is basically going through what the States was going through, like in terms of regulation, like a month and a half ago. They were more loose, and then they've gotten more strict. And then they're going to have to come up with some sort of custom regulation for this particular situation. Otherwise, they're just not going to be able to get goods. They're going to have such a limited supply of product. I don't know how long that takes. It's one aspect that, a lot of the factories got their C certificates were made invalid. But the other aspect is that the testing facilities that are accepted, which I think is TUV, SGS, and SunGo, like they're either backed up or they have limited like employees because of because of the coronavirus situation, the COVID-19 situation. They're not operating at the same capacity that they would be normally. So that one factory that recently got their TUV certification for 3-ply, and Imogen was talking to me, and I just asked them, I was like, what was their process? Because they actually got it recently. It was like 2 weeks ago or something. And they said they had like a partner in Europe, like an agent, a sourcing agent in Europe that helped them do it. But I asked how long does it take? They said probably 1 to 2 to 3 months now. So most factories are just looking at it like, look, like we're getting millions of orders from other countries. Like I don't want to go through that whole situation and like try to find somebody in Europe to help speed up the process. And like most factories are just like, you know what, like take it or leave it.
Yeah, they're getting orders from everywhere.
Yeah.
If you got to look 3 months out, I mean, if this is your business and you just want to see it into the future, you might begin that process. But yeah, you're not going to put all efforts into streamlining it when you have enough orders to fill your capacity as is.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I mean, we are definitely putting a little bit more emphasis into trying to locate those few factories, and I think we found 1 or 2 options. But then it's like you get a new inquiry, like our buddy Alan sent us that long WhatsApp message, and that's just like a whole other set of certifications that we have to look for. And there's probably only a handful of factories that would match that. So it's like we'd have to spend the next 2-3 days trying to find a suitable supplier for that certificate without the promise of an order. It's like, how much time do we spend on that, searching for a factory for that specific thing?
That's something that we've been dealing with all month. It's just like, okay, somebody comes to us with this, what looks to be a massive opportunity, X number 1,000, X number million of a certain product, but eyeing that up and thinking, okay, we have to do a lot of work in order. I think a lot of people in this situation, they're just getting a reference or they go on to Alibaba. I don't know how a lot of people would handle this situation, but we have a long vetting process that we go through to make sure that a factory is legit, and we want to work with them and we're comfortable.
Yeah.
Getting a multi-million unit inquiry today for whatever it is, a cotton swab for the mouth or one of the no-touch thermometers or whatever that product may be. Yeah, it's a great big opportunity, but we have to do a lot of work. And also with things changing day to day, it's not just about the work to find that factory. It's also about maintaining communication with those factories to be informed of the changes that are happening in their costs and their production line, what they're seeing from a shipping perspective. So I think after about a week or 2 of doing this, we were like, I don't think we can just never stop answering inquiries. It's just not feasible. So we kind of honed in on a couple of products.
Focused on a couple of products, yeah.
A couple of products and not that we're turning people away, but we kind of focused in on the core people that we're working with who at least acknowledge what we're telling them.
Yeah. I think the way I gauge it is like how much work is involved and how much are they willing to do themselves. If we're talking about having to search 2-3 days for a factory with a certain type of certification and we don't really know even what the order quantity is going to be, I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. But, if it's something where it's a product that we're already actively sourcing and we can literally just reference, because we're also working with some local trading companies because, they have connections to factories that are not online. Because a lot of these factories are new, right? They're new to the industry, but they're qualified to export. They're just new to it. Being able to reference somebody and say, hey, do you have a factory for this certification? And if it's a yes or no thing, okay. Or they might take a couple of days and come back to us with something. That's easy. But, if we're going to have our team who is actively managing productions, actively managing shipping, actively managing QC, on top of that, people forget we still have our internal, like our normal SFA projects that we're managing. And a lot of those, like in the last week, I just paid for 3 different molds. We're going to be going into productions for 3 other smaller projects, but these are long-term customers that we've been working with for 6 months, a year. ODM projects that require a lot of back and forth and design discussions and iterations of samples. So it's like taking away the focus from those things to spend 2-3 days on a potential order. It's just, I don't think we can do that these days. Because you've been dealing with it the last couple of days, I think we're beginning to sort of get a better handle on the custom situation in the US. Can you kind of break down what your experience has been?
Yeah, so a lot of our shipments are just getting into the States. If you're asking customs from a U.S. perspective, I feel like every country is going to have different standards. Pretty much anything that comes in to the States, they're requiring a tax ID and 7% tax on the invoice amount coming in. So they said that there were previously, before COVID, not that long, I was during the new administration here in the States, but tariffs against Chinese products, but they waived those tariffs because of everything that's happening. But yeah, they're still taxing 7% on anything. And sometimes you deal with certain shipping companies or DHL, I feel like they might send
wasn't it supposed to be 13%? Like, because when you checked the HS code on all these products, like it was 13%. That's what I was expecting. So 7, yeah.
So we're at 7, but I feel like in the past, sometimes I get hit with certain bills and they'll let the goods through and then, you'll get a bill for it. Whereas now it's just like, no, not much is getting through at all. Everything's being taxed. A lot of nervousness and worry from people about stuff that's coming in. Who the importer is the importer FDA licensed for medical equipment? Is it not coming in for medical equipment? I said on the call with Imogen that we did earlier that people have been telling me the US side has been stalled and running really slow as well because the companies, they're not operating at full tilt. A lot of the employees here in the States don't want to go to work, or they're demanding additional insurance and hazard pay, or they're just deciding to not take the risk and go to work. So it's been a lot harder to move shipments. Things are getting stalled up here. I definitely think the bigger issue is on the China side, just because there's so much volume and the constant changes to what is an acceptable good, what's an acceptable factory, and how those factories need to package the items in order to get out of the country, along with the pile up at the ports, along with the pile up in the carriers' warehouses. Yeah, I know you said you talked about it, but it's been nuts, man. We started getting prepared for these orders probably April 10th. It's April 29th today, which, man, that seems like longer than 19 days, doesn't it? It seems like we've been doing this for months on end. Yeah, but we really...
Well, on top of that, being in full lockdown, I feel like I've been locked for like a year or something. But
it's been a real challenge. It's been frustrating. Kind of never know if the decision you're making is the best decision just because of the constantly changing environment. You're dealing with people, customers and their customers who are getting frustrated, and We have a certain kind of customer that we deal with normally, and we're dealing with a lot of people who are kind of out of our normal network. So just dealing with Americans in general, it's another part of the process that's been interesting. Or at least I shouldn't say so much Americans, but just people who maybe don't fully understand the sourcing process to start and how things work. And then on top of that, having to come back to them and telling them shipping rates are double, triple, sometimes more than triple the cost of what we would normally pay. That goods are, we're handing something off to FedEx, and 9 days later, we're not seeing any update on that shipment. We still don't have a live tracking. I mean, usually shipments kind of get into the States in like 4 to 7 days.
Yeah. Well, at least you get tracking, within 24 hours of them picking up the goods, right?
Some activity within 48, 72 hours, almost 99 times out of 100. And now we have all kinds of shipments that have no movement. We have no indication what's going on. It's stressful.
And just to give some perspective on what Mike is talking about, like when this stuff all happened and it was taking a while to get buyers to, I guess, trust us, we decided, we're like, man, I think we should just buy our own goods, at least on a small scale, and ship them out to the States. So we kind of put together a small group of investors, all friends and business partners, and we all put in our own money and bought some KN95s and some 3-plies. And specifically the 3-ply masks, which were shipping out of northern China, Zhejiang province, we submitted some of those shipments like 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. And up to now, they haven't left China. And they were just basically sitting in the UPS's warehouse. And the UPS is like, yeah, we'll get to it soon. But, they can't. Like, they just have so much other stuff going on. So many other shipments happening that like it's just taking a long time for them to literally just process the orders. Like the stuff is just in the warehouses. So, and then if we're talking about clients in the same situation, it's not like we can physically show them any documentation to say, yeah, here are your goods in the UPS warehouse and they will be shipping out in X amount of time. Like we just don't know. We don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. We don't know if it's going to be 5 days from now. Like that's been the one of the toughest situations with regards to that. The good news is in terms of the investment group, like we have now products on the ground, right? We have KN95s on the ground. We have 3-plies on the ground. We have more 3-plies coming, more KN95s. I think with more KN95s by the end of this week or early next week.
KN95s, nitro gloves, 3-plies, and face shields.
Yeah. The KN95s are the ones that we have there from the factory, from the EUA list as well. So that, customers have been smooth with that. Did a ton of QC on those. We are working with the factory very closely. You have most of the goods in your location, right?
Most.
Yeah.
Or the ones that have arrived, at least, and gone through the customs process.
Like, what is the average cost of shipping within the States? Like, if I was shipping from Chicago to LA, for example, Chicago to Denver, which would be one of the...
It depends on how many you're shipping. The ground rates are a lot. I mean, I feel like one of those big boxes is going to be like $150.
Yeah.
If you send 1,000 KN95s, it would be like $150 to ship. I was checking rates on UPS today. There's other methods to ship out, and I'm sure I could go to USPS and get a lower shipment at a lower rate. But yeah, usually we don't do too much U.S. domestic shipping, and if we do, it's through a fulfillment center, and we're kind of hands off with it.
Yeah, I mean, usually we're not selling the product directly to buyers in that sense. So it's the first time for us, but I think it's exciting. Also, we know that the products that we're bringing in are legit and fully vetted. So it's nice to be sort of in control of the whole process, from the manufacturing side to the shipping side to the sales side, being directly involved with everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes with the investment stuff. Like, we have short-term plans and long-term plans. Like I think that with the climate, this is not going to go away anytime soon, but obviously the market will adjust and evolve, and you're probably not going to be making the same margins. The demand might be a little bit slower, but I think if you can show people, like what we are trying to do, is show people that our products are really good and we're reasonably priced, you become a trusted vendor.
Takes time.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, I'm good for now. Maybe next podcast we can switch morning and night.
Yeah, sure. Actually, one last thing I wanted to mention about the whole customs process in China, it just jumped into my brain, was like specifically with the France order that we're involved in. We're not directly managing this production, but we facilitated the deal with the factory. So we help with communication. We consult a little bit. It's a pretty large order. The initial contract is for roughly 12 million units, but could be more. Could be less, depending on how these shipments go. The first batch of 3-plies, which was roughly 500,000, they got shipped to southern China, and then all of a sudden customs had a new requirement, so those goods had to be repackaged, or at least there was a slip that had to be put into the boxes. So you can imagine the factory shipped the goods out from north to south, which was probably not very, it was not cheap, and then they had to then send the slip, and then it had to be packaged in southern China. So like, just they're incurring so many expenses when it comes to that, and that's happening frequently. Like the next batch, the same thing happened. Like they were about to ship them out, and customs in the same day said, hey, there's a new packaging requirement, QC slip that needs to be put in, and it's like 30,000 packages being repackaged. Like, so that's kind of what we're dealing with the Chinese customs. And I mean, the article that I read was basically the Chinese government saying they're trying to strike a balance between not limiting legitimate factories from exporting, but also trying to make sure that the fake factories, or the factories that are selling goods that are not certified, can't export. So it's the central thing is like nobody really knows how to handle these situations, but hopefully it stabilizes over the next couple weeks to a month.
Only continued to get more and more weird and expensive, so I sure hope so.
All right, guys, it's us signing off. If you want to reach out to us, that's I guess for inquiries, you can check the link in the description below, but sourcefedasia.com/contact us. I think my email address is also there, rico@sourcefedasia.com, michael@sourcefedasia.com. And for the YouTube channel, of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will keep you updated on these COVID-19 medical supplies. Cheers.
Good night.